G'day from Australia. This is the Two Secular Dudes, and today we're talking about probably my favourite topic. Um, Colin is here. Hi, Colin. Don't
Hello.
forget to smile.
That's it. That's it. Pay attention,
Um,
Kate. We're smiling.
yeah, I asked my darling Kate how I looked. She said, um, like mad professor, but sexy. So that's good. Um, I don't know if I believe anyway. So we're going to talk today about the evolution of cooperation, my favorite topic. Um, it was not my PhD topic, but it was something that I was alerted to by a friend. Oh, I just wish I could remember her name now. If she's listening, please let me know. Because she introduced me to this book, The Evolution of Cooperation. And it literally did change my life. Um, it was something that had addressed issues that I was concerned about in ways that were really powerful. And over the last 40 years, everything that I observe in human nature reinforces it.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope to convince people that we're actually good up to the point, up to a reasonable level. We're good. We don't need a divine dictator to make us good. Um, we're naturally good. And I hope to convince people of that.
Hmm. We are.
Okay,
We
so
are.
now I've got to take control of the screen and move. Okay, I can do that. So, what made me um, what upset me was the reading of The Selfish Gene. Now, I I prided myself at the time of being as objective as I could possibly be and looking at species, um, looking at how, looking at the issue of whether we're good or not. I had sort of internalized the argument, and a lot of people make this argument to me, that even if if a tray is beneficial to your species, then there's selection pressure for you to have that tray. Um, so if there's something that allows you, say I develop the ability to sacrifice a bit of my time and start making shoes for people. Well, that's beneficial to the tribe, and so therefore it's beneficial to me and my genes. Now, Richard Dawkins said exactly that is not true, that the interests of the gene are what evolution is all about, not the interest of the species. Now, the interests of the gene are wedded to the individual. Basically, we're the robot for the gene. I,
Hmm.
I very rarely hear people use that term robot, but I must admit I kind of like it. I know it sounds very reductionist. Maybe I'm a reductionist, but yeah, it's the gene that we serve, and I hate to tell you all, and I hate to tell you, Cole, my genes don't care about your genes. So,
No.
and my genes don't care about anybody's genes except my genes. And reading that, wow, that really set me for a loop. Especially got up once I got to that point where it's beneficial to your species doesn't mean there's selection pressure for it. So, that to me sort of led me down a lot of paths until I got hold of the evolution of cooperation. Now, leading up to the evolution of cooperation, there's this notion of a game of cooperation or defection. The called The Prisoner's Dilemma, but has a lot of, a lot of different applications. It applies in nature a lot, and it applies in a lot of games. It applies to the worldwide uh, Cold War. Um, the benefits and losses from being the first to let off a nuclear weapon and all these kind of things. And the basic idea behind it is that if I cooperate and you cooperate, then I get 3 gold coins. If I defect and you cooperate, I get 5 gold coins. That's the payoff for being the bad guy. This is the payoff for being the good guy. If the other player defects and I cooperate, I get 0 gold coins. But if I defect as well, I get 1 gold coin. Now, the thing is, if you look carefully, if I cooperate, I get less coins than if I defect, no matter
Yes.
what I do, right? I
Yeah.
cooperate, I get 3 rather than 5, 0 rather than 1. If we both cooperate, we both get 3. If we both defect, we both get 1 less. So here is where the tail turns, right? Is there some kind of impetus for us both cooperating over us both defecting? Well, yes and no. It's a complicated answer, but the first thing we can say is that if we only meet just once, if there's only one such decision to make in my interaction with you, then I'm going to choose to defect. That's depressing, right? And this was the state of a lot of business literature, right? Up until the evolution of cooperation, um, a lot of people believed that this was the way to handle business interactions, all kinds of interactions, because it was scientific, because it was rational, because it fitted the techniques of good decision making, outcomes times probability and all that kind of stuff. So my option is always to defect. This was pretty much this was the movie The Beautiful Mind.
Yes.
This is the Nash equilibrium in the context of the prisoner's dilemma, and it leads to defection because it's only once. This Nash equilibrium inspired a lot of right-wing economists and politicians. I think even Margaret Thatcher was, looked at things this way. So it's highly rational to defect if you're only going to meet once, but we're a social organism.
Yes.
So this Nash equilibrium applies. Um, and I would recommend you look at another a YouTube by Veritasium, Derek Muller, who actually is Australian. I said that I gave this presentation, and people told me that he's not Australian. Well, he lives in Canada and he has done so since he was a kid. So he's essentially Canadian. His YouTubes are really good. His one on this topic is fantastic. This topic is so important, I believe, that if you don't watch any other of his, you're not really into science that much, and you don't watch any other of his excellent videos, this is one to watch, and this is one, and my one, the one we're having today, is also the one to watch. And the book, The Evolution of Cooperation, you really should have it on your shelf. To me, it's that important. Over 40 years, it's just become, it's like changed my life.
Very good.
So the prisoner's dilemma is everywhere. Um, how do impalas, in what way does the prisoner's dilemma affect them? Well, it affects them because they have to get rid of ticks on each other because ticks are endemic where they live, and if they don't, they get sicker and sicker, and they eventually die.
Yeah.
So they have to invest some time on each other getting rid of ticks. The thing is that they don't just play the prisoner's dilemma once. They don't just see each other once. They interact again and again, and they live in social groups.
Yes.
Now they do share genes, and thereby hangs another tale. But we have to build up to that because it's not as simple as it might seem.
All right.
The book was written by Robert Axelrod. Um, I know he doesn't look like a genius, but I regard him as one. Should I say that online? Anyway,
That's a bit harsh, isn't
it's a
it?
bit harsh. I really like Robert Axelrod. Okay. So he invited the world's best programmers and game strategists to submit programs to play that prisoner's dilemma that we had,
Yep.
but 200 times. Actually, you can't do it exactly 200 times because you can tell what's going to happen on the last round. So you sort of have to keep it going by making it a random number of times, but it's around 200 times.
Yes.
He repeated the whole experiment with everybody playing everybody else 5 times, and he had 14 programs submitted. So it was in the form of computer programs. So the strategies had to be codified into computer programs. There were world experts, there were large programs, and there were super simple programs as well. And there were lots of amateurs.
Yeah.
So he invited into the magazine, he invited these programmers and they submitted their programs. The difference is they didn't just play the prisoner's dilemma once, they played it many times, iterated prisoner's dilemma.
Yep.
Now, the highest scoring program was tit for tat. It wasn't, tit for tat is retaliatory. It attacks when it's attacked, but it cooperates first and it'll cooperate from then on if the other guy is cooperating. But the thing to notice is what it is not. It's not turn the other cheek. Um, turn the other cheek is a sucker's game. um, I hate to say it. I mean, sounds great, nice idea. De-escalation is a great idea, but simply turn the other cheek is not a good strategy. In fact, it's retaliatory. If somebody defects on you, then in the next turn, you defect on them. But you start out as never attacking. Any program that starts out as never attacking um, is called nice, right? Now
Yeah.
there are programs that start out as kind of never attacking, but will have a go at trying to sneak in a defect to get some advantage from it. They're sort of, not totally nice, but and some of those do quite well, but not if they're really obvious and really they do it really straight away and a lot. It has to be done really subtly. But yeah, nice, I'm going to say, is a program that starts out cooperative, and if you cooperate, continues cooperating. Now, the advantage of that, let's just go back quickly, is that if you cooperate and I cooperate, we get 3 gold coins. But if you and I get into a bout of fighting, we only get 1 gold coin, right?
Yep.
So if we copy what each other does, we get an average of 3 gold coins. If we don't, we get an average of 1 gold coin. The tournament winner was a program that did that, but it was the simplest possible program that was given into the competition. It was the smallest program. Just copy what the other guy does. Start out with cooperation, but then just copy what the other guy does. It's certainly not turn the other cheek, right?
Mm.
And it's not hit back with bigger tariffs when you get small tariffs. Um, in fact, I'd like to look at de-escalation, in how that works. But anyway, that's the sort of thing that I thought about afterwards. But it not only won, it won convincingly. More than that, all of the programs that were at the top in the listing of scores playing against
Mhm.
each other, they were all nice. Right? You remember the definition of nice? Start out cooperating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So they call them in the terminology of the of game theory, they call them nice guys, and then in cybersecurity we call them nice guys as well. Oh, by the way, my PhD was not on this topic. My master's was on information security, and we certainly came up with issues regarding nice guys, which I'll talk about later. So, is guys, um, is it woke to say guys instead of people? I'm going to say nice guys. Okay.
yeah. I think
Uh,
nice guys is all right.
I think it's okay. I
And
think
yeah,
guys is not not discriminatory. Women and
no,
men, yeah.
yeah,
Well, I would hope it's inclusive.
yes,
So nice is defined as strategies that started with cooperation. Nice programs beat all the programs that started with defection or that were not nice. Um, both tournaments, they had another tournament with 15 strategies, and another. Well, the first one had 15 strategies entered. The next one had 62. Both tournaments had the same result, exactly the same result. Nice guys came first.
mm. So
Now,
cooperation works.
yeah. So that's how, in a social environment with continual interaction, being nice is advantageous. It's advantageous to you and it's advantageous to your gene, right? So being nice is advantageous, but how does it evolve? So when they look at mixtures of societies and they mathematically put in algorithms, if you're in a society where well, not everybody cooperates, you can be in a society where it's actually disadvantageous to be nice. So what I just said before depends on the strategies that are in the society. Nice guys don't always come first. They did in the programs, but when they look at actually making mixtures of societies, you need a certain number of nice guys to make being a nice guy pay off. And remember, a nice guy is not turn the other cheek. If somebody starts to become obviously a bad guy, you don't continue to reward them. And that's the same in our society. So we have a mixture in these um, exploratory mixtures of societies. They have ones all the way from all defectors to all cooperators. All defectors, you can't get in. There's no point. You've got to just become one of the crowd. The other end, all good guys, well, if they're all good, and they're super good and they're just good to the point of turn the other cheek no matter what you do, then a bad guy can get some reward. Does that make sense?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep,
So Colin, so you can. you can start scoring fives instead of ones, right? Um, so a bad guy can start making, let's go back. A bad guy, so if I cooperate, the other guy defects, they get zero. Hang on a sec. No, they get 5 gold coins. Yeah. So if the other player cooperates and I'm a bad guy and I defect, I get 5 gold coins.
And if
It
you,
does bend you. Sorry.
so I was just going to say, so if you cooperate and I defect, I get 0 coins.
No, you get 5 gold coins.
I'd still get okay.
This is me, this is the other guy.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I read it wrong the first time around, right? Which I
Yeah.
do sometimes. So if I defect and you cooperate, I get 5. But if you defect and I cooperate, you get 5.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I get 0 if the other player defects and I cooperate. So you get 5, I get 0. So
Yes.
that's a big advantage. That's more than 3 that you get for both cooperating, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So if everybody cooperates and you learn how to defect in that environment, it pays to be a bad guy. So we're back
What-
to, yep,
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say, which sort of begs the question if I'm using that properly, but so in a society where there are no repercussions for defection, it's best to defect. If you can get away with it, it's best to defect.
it's best to defect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you come up with everybody, if a sucker is born every minute and everybody's a sucker, then it's best to defect. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, so that means that no matter what pressure there is towards cooperation, as it gets more and more, there's also a little bit of pressure to have some bad guys in the mix. Now,
Yeah.
you know, and we also have to explain how we get there in the first place. I don't want to get too bogged down in that, but the basic
Yeah. Yeah.
idea is that it can come through families. So you'll be actually helping your gene to start with, and that might then flow out to um,
Oh,
a few individuals who are not in your family, who you don't share genes with. Basically, people in a tribe were sharing lots of genes anyway.
yes.
Um, so it can grow from even not having any nice guys. It can grow in an evolutionary way from having gene pressure, just as the thing that lights the flame.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so that's where we're at, right? We got huge pressure to be nice. Everybody wants to be seen as nice. Nobody wants to be seen as a bad guy. In fact, being seen as a bad guy is a huge disincentive, you know. Nobody wants that hanging over their head. But also there's rewards for for bad guys. How much pressure, how many bad guys are there? Well, this is the question, okay? So there's some bad guys, there's some good guys. We need vigilance against the bad guys because there's always pressure for them to get advantage.
Yes.
But honestly, having lived with this for like 40 years, the pressure that we have, and especially as intelligent human beings who can recognize who is a good guy and who is a bad guy after observing enough behavior. And if you notice, a lot of our gossip is around who is actually nice and who's not, who's hiding something, right?
Mm.
Um, I actually, over 40 years, I've come to the conclusion that most people are nice And the reason for it is because it's advantageous. In other words, we're good. There's some bad guys, but we're good. um, how many of either and how fluid that is. Some people, there's a song by George Harrison, "Beware of darkness," beware of
Yeah.
beware of poisonous thoughts that wind up in your head that can make you really turn you really nasty, sometimes for good reason. You're being abused.
Uh,
So, but my my feeling has been, as I get older and older, that most people want to be seen as nice. Yeah, there's a certain amount of people will get a naughty advantage when they can, but as long as it's not seen as being socially totally unacceptable. Um, and some people can turn bad, you know. But one area that is really interesting is I've come across um, uh, experts in information security who view our niceness kind of as a problem
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it makes it hard for us to empathize with really nasty scammers. We hardly could imagine that some young guy is trying to scam someone who's the same age as his grandmother. You know, um, we find it really hard to if someone is calling up, and there's a nice video on this online. If someone's calling up and you can hear a baby crying in the background, and they've all had all these issues because they can't access money and it's health problems, and people on the help desk, people working in the company will be nice people, and they'll try to do the right thing by them.
Yeah.
So teaching people how to be careful of the really shifty, and because it's online, is kind of different from the most of the situations where we interact with other people in a social setting. Up until computing, we did a lot of our interaction literally face to face,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we would interact with a limited number of people. But even so, I think there's, even in that society, there's a huge pressure for niceness, and there's huge advantages to actually being nice. Okay, so the evolution of cooperation. Axelrod finished his book with a conjecture about how niceness can evolve. The iterated prisoner's dilemma can be powerful enough to start from a small cohort. Perhaps a cohort does not have to be genetically related to, once it's started, to then increase in the population. Notice it's not to do with benefit to the species, but a benefit to the individual, let's put it, to the
Mm.
individual's genes, right?
Yeah.
So I fully, my interactions with people tell me that most people really do want to be nice. They want to be seen as nice, and they want to actually be nice, especially the people I want to interact with, but that's another issue. So, do nice guys really come first? Well, I hope I've convinced you that they do, and I've lived with this question for 40 years. I can only urge you to weigh up the question for yourselves. An interesting question is, how many people are bad? It depends on the kind of society. It depends on the kind of motivations, and how well wealth is distributed, how what kind of mores are in the society. Um, but um, I would say less than you would think. I would say 95 to 98% of people are good, and those people who are actually programmed to be bad, or who some somehow, for some reason, are bad is pretty small. I would say between 2 to 5% only. But again, this all depends on contingencies. We are adaptable, and part of the adaptability can be not being so nice when it's called for. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you have to protect yourself.
Yeah, yeah. There's a few things that come up with this. I mean, the first thing I'm thinking about at the moment is just oh, I had to mention it, Epstein. This cabal, this network of people that would seem to be not nice actors, and I'm not talking about not nice from the perspective of deviant behaviour, but not nice just in a fiscal context. That
Well,
you
not
know,
nice from abusing, from the point of view of uh, abusing vulnerable people.
well,
But
I,
yeah, I know the other point.
I was just going to say that I suppose that it would seem that in many cases these powerful groups, going back a long time, have dragged us into wars that should probably have never happened, and it looks like they're about to again. And there's already sort of talk of, look, if we go to war with Iran, there's going to be all these opportunities for business.
Oh
If we
yeah,
destroy
yeah.
Cuba, there's going to be. I mean, kids are starving on the streets in Cuba. They were starving on the streets of Germany in 1914, and that is okay because it's about business.
I,
And
I think there's two things there. Um,
yep,
the first one is that this is about people in interaction in society.
yes,
If you have more money than any person should have,
yes,
not just billions, but verging on trillions now
yes,
for the richest, you don't live in a society. You're I especially if you grow up like that. To me, Trump seems like the sort of person who has no loyalty to anybody that he expects to show loyalty to him. He'll just throw them under the bus, and he's done that numerous times.
yes,
He
yes,
just sees everybody as somebody to manipulate just for his own advantage, and he schemes and plots. He seems, well, let's use him as an example. He's obviously not like that, so please don't, this is going out online, isn't it? Um,
this is not about the American president. This is about
no,
another
no,
Donald
I'm
Trump.
just mentioning him as a kind of a trope in society, right? A lot of people
Yes,
do
yeah,
see him this way. Fools, they
yes,
should. He's a really nice guy and he's anti-war, and he wants to drain the swamp.
yep,
But if someone like him, their caricature, grows up, then yeah. But the other side of it too, which is something else entirely, which I probably should have mentioned, and I did mention on the night because I was asked this question. Um, I've explained how cooperation evolves, but we've got to remember that during our evolution, there were other organisms, other humans living in our environment who could
yes,
organize, come over the hill, steal all our stuff, rape and pillage and burn, right?
yep, yep,
And in fact, some religions have made that into a virtue.
yes,
Um, so that sort of possibility, when you don't have organized news sources, and your news source is someone who went to a field yesterday and came back, um, it's always possible that someone can come over the hill like that and be doing that. And there are examples of tribes attacking other tribes and stuff.
yep,
So within your tribe, you're socially interacting and you want to be nice. But built into the bottom of our, limbic system or wherever, our lizard brain, there's this hatred of the other.
There's, yeah, this notion of other.
Yeah. And it's just
Yeah.
inbuilt.
Yes.
And everybody has, no matter how nice you are, how lovely, how left wing, how free and whatever you are, it's in there. And
The other is the
it
threat.
yeah, it
Mm.
saved a lot of our ancestors.
Mm. Mm.
And it's really nasty. It doesn't because it doesn't apply today. But during during the um, evolution, starting from agricultural society and religion and royalty and the bourgeoisie and the people with more money than they should have, they've learned how to tickle this nerve. They've
Yeah.
learned how to get us into wars. And they've been
Yes.
using it for hundreds, maybe 1,000 years, maybe thousands of years. The Romans probably used it.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so it's a really powerful force, and they know how to lock into it and make us go to wars to the point that
Mm.
um, our illustrious leaders go to war and there's questionable, ethically questionable activity, and we kind of just suppress it and don't ignore it and just hope that there's not too many pictures coming from there. The problem with Vietnam, there were pictures all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and reminders and body bags. So that and they play on our desire to be loyal to our tribe, which was advantageous. But yeah, it's really strong force, and it's not advantageous for everybody. You know, I so there's another thing there that I probably should mention in the it's not all totally sanguine. I am sanguine about human nature. I am sanguine about everyone I meet, but I really do hate this ability to manipulate our drive to war with people who are totally unrelated to us, where there's no real advantage except for the few.
Yeah. Or ideological outcomes. I mean, we're easily manipulated. There are bad actors out there. But mind you, I was driving somewhere yesterday or the day before, and I was listening to Radio National, and they were talking about this comparison between, and it reminded me of this, or this reminds me of that. Um, so there was a group of Tongan school. So we sort of grew up with Lord of the Flies. I think we all read Lord of the Flies at school, about this plane crash with the English school kids, and they break into two tribes, and one goes barbaric, and the other one essentially tries to survive against this barbaric horde. And it painted a picture of, sort of this underlying Hobbesian view of the world about, nature is nasty, brutish, and short. Or is that the quote? I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But then there was a story of a group of Tongan castaways in June 65, 16 students from Tonga, borrowed a boat and went sailing. They were aged 13 to 19. And by the time they were discovered, like I think it was a year and a half later, they'd organised, they had a permanent fire. One of them taken on the role of being sort of the mediator of any disputes. They'd built themselves a gym. They were sharing the tasks of water gathering and gathering food and stuff like that. So they're actually cooperating really well and did quite well in a small group. I just wonder if this cooperation scales. I mean, I don't think we're designed. What's that law about? We can only really manage 150 relationships. Is it 150 relationships
yeah.
that we're
Some
able to navigate?
experiments have shown that they seem to be that seems to me be the most stable number for a group of people. So if they were sending people to Mars, for example, that's about the number they'd want to send, or to the moon. Or
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So,
I've
so
read it in a number of places. So,
Yeah, yeah. So how does this evolution of cooperation scale? How do we take the innate? um, you're going to hate this, Stephen Pinker. Um, the better nature of our angels or the better nature of our beings. Was,
um,
was that Pinker's work?
well, I would look at um, instead of what you wish to be true, I would look at the evidence.
Hmm.
Um, and the evidence is that this evolution of cooperation happens in a lot of other animals.
Yep,
So
yep.
dogs, dolphins, um, elephants, even some fish. Um, and when the genetics sort of breaks down is with insects where they're totally different. They're not, oh, what's the term? That it, the individual doesn't just have two strands of genes. Anyway, so
Yeah,
it
yeah,
it
yeah.
seems to it works in a lot of contexts. And my observations over 40 years are that um, people are intrinsically good.
Yes.
There's some nasty scammers out there, too much time on their hand, but um, and they tend to be, they can be very persuasive. They can be working to um, seduce people. So, uh, who was the guy with the 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 Australian singer, Rolf Harris,
Oh,
and,
yep,
and
yep, yep.
Epstein. They're really appealing people, but have this nasty undercurrent of abuse. Um,
Uh,
so yeah, so I would just say, make your own observations about people and just observe that they really are like that. Um, I I have my doubts about the anyway. Let me just say that yeah, the ability for us to go to war can be tickled, and I don't believe that it's a good thing, and I don't believe that necessarily patriotism is always what is called for. There needs to be a drive for, democracy and individual freedom.
mm, mm. Yeah. Are we? I mean,
I'm
I
sanguine.
suppose.
I'm still sanguine about human nature.
Yeah, yeah. I
Let
if
me,
if it's an evolutionary trait for us to cooperate, um, but like other evolutionary traits, like the fear of the other, um, it can all be hacked, which I guess comes down to the information
hmm,
security aspect, which is where people trying to be nice. This is our inherent nature is to try and be helpful and try and be nice, and then that becomes a security risk. And
yeah,
that would apply as much in the familial group as within information security. So
and it
within
and
the
it's
town
like
or the village or the tribe,
it
if
was
you let
like you
in
were
an
saying, yeah,
outsider.
because we're not in small tribes, we're in large, overwhelmingly large numbers of people who hardly see each other from day to day.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
and on the internet, multiply that by 100, so yeah, there are these factors that, we should be thinking about. Are we too large in numbers? Whatever, right? I still think that on an individual basis, especially with the people we interact with on a regular basis, um, which is a lot of people and most of the time.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm pretty sanguine. One of the things that really convinces me is when you look at children's stories, and I know a lot of
Mm,
children's stories have a woven in sort of fake moral tale, and everything has to have a moral tale. But
mm.
they understand those moral tales viscerally. Oh, he's a bad guy. Oh, the bad guy's behind you.
Yeah,
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, goodies and baddies.
yeah, and they
Yeah,
understand that the
yeah,
bad guy is someone who's upsetting the social balance, you know.
yes,
Um, and they seem to do so viscerally to me. Yeah, not in every
yeah,
case.
mm,
And some of the stories that are really interesting are the ones where you have an anti-hero for some reason or another, and things break down. But in general, no. I think we respond to the hero. You know, when if I've I, you know, I don't drink too much these days, but when I used to, sometimes I'd wake up and the best thing to do would be to read a comic with a real hero in it who really sacrifices his time for to save to save people who can't defend themselves or whatever, you know. I think there's
yeah,
that
yeah,
element inside our natures.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I've got one more slide, I think. A couple
Okay.
more slides. Okay.
Yep,
So there've
yep.
been experiments with bonobos, dolphins, herding, killer whales, species of fish. Dogs are extremely well organized. Um, I had believed that wolves had a real alpha male thing going on, but some people these days are suggesting that it's not as strong as we think it, you know, as I had thought it was.
Mm, okay.
But it also depends on the society that they're in. So bonobos are really social. Chimpanzees not so much.
Really, really social.
They have sex at the drop of a hat, the bonobos. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, but the chimpanzees not so much.
Yes.
And it's just in their natures and it's the way they evolved. Um, Specialization in humans is super, super powerful. Someone sews the coats, someone gets the shoes, someone sharpens the flint or builds the spears or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, that sort of specialization is super powerful and leads to economies where we can have bridges and um, you know cars and roads and ships and distribution of food and refrigeration, electricity, iPhones. Well, okay, even Androids, but if you want a proper phone, you get an iPhone, of course, or
You're
whatever.
wrong, but go
um, these are magic. These are really, really magic, and yeah, it's just amazing how the magical things that we can make possible with cooperation, and especially with adding in specialization.
on.
And I would say to that, anyone who contributes is as good as anyone else, from the person who sweeps the floors to the person who designs the drug that defeats cancer or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's true. I suppose I'm always saying I don't question that we are cooperative by nature. Um, I still think that, so even when you talk about, building roads and bridges and power stations and everything, I mean, that's been done as a social function. So we've all come together, we've all contributed our taxes and we built new roads and we built this and we built that and we worked cooperatively to get these things that improved our lives, education system, health systems. And then you get a corporation that doesn't want to pay tax and it wants to use the roads, but it doesn't want to contribute to them. It wants to use the energy, often sometimes to the exclusion of others, but it doesn't really want to contribute to it. You know,
Well, I think there's a certain amount. I mean, yeah, there are people who want a free ride, and we all
mm,
want an easy
reload a
ride for
problem.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And there are
reload
some people, who do. Pretty much everyone realizes that it's not possible to have a free ride for everybody. but we can all make life better for everybody. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
who was the one of the uh, economic gurus in the US is famous for paying his taxes. Oh God, I forget his name. Ben Bernanke, maybe, maybe it's someone else, but someone like that. And he wears it on his sleeve as a badge of honor, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we all
Yeah.
realize that it's a good thing, but in talking people around to, I guess, a class that they're not really in, to their, you know, um, where Google pays zero tax and these companies pay zero tax just because of power. Um,
Yeah.
they do hide, they really hide well how they do that and the damage that it does to our economy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
then comes this race to the bottom. Like
yeah,
you
they
buy,
and
you
but they
buy,
have to hide it because people can see it's kind of unethical, you know. There are
yeah.
certain, like I've got a list here of things that I thought, what would most of us have be ethical, have ethical sensibilities to? Spouse abuse and spouse gaslighting. I would hope that most people are reviled by that.
Mm.
You get right down to a football player who makes a sacrifice for a goal, you know, sends it to a better player closer to the goal,
Mm.
even though that guy gets all the accolades. Um, when we watching some YouTubes at the time um, of what do they call them? Ga the little cameras, that dash cams. So
Yeah. Dash
there's some
cams.
dash cam videos of people doing the wrong thing. And I really hate it when someone zooms through the emergency line. And
Yeah.
I've actually done it myself accidentally.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Uh,
you think, oh, this line's open for some reason. I can see down and then you realize, oh, and you feel so shameful when you do that, right? But
yeah. I
I
do. I
really,
do.
yeah, I don't know why people accept it, but I really hate it, and I'm guessing most people do as well.
Um,
When you
it
see a
feels
long
like
line of cars waiting and someone zooming past them all, I just hate that, right? So there's a lot of things like that, really.
it's interesting, because I whenever I'm on the freeway, I mean, I don't know. I suppose I grew up in different traffic conditions, but also I think there was a clear understanding, like in the UK, where you're not allowed to undertake. So the only place you can overtake is on the right. So there's a huge pressure for everyone to keep left unless they're overtaking.
Yep.
And here, the number of times you'll be on the freeway and you'll have three cars sitting on 80 k's an hour across the 3 or 4 lanes of freeway, and just this huge chunk of traffic held up behind them. And a lot of parts of the freeway now, there's those open lanes on the right hand or left hand side, and I'm so tempted, so tempted to get onto them to just go past the whole lot and get out in front. Not because I want to be in front, I just don't want to be. Well, I hate being behind cars because if you're behind a car, you've just got one
Well,
more risk,
I was with the
'cause you don't
tax.
know what they're going to do.
I
Go
was with
on.
the taxi driver. I got to know him quite well, and
Mm.
I said, "How do you do it all day, just sitting behind cars without getting a little bit angry?" Um, and he said, I only let it bother me if they're 10 kilometers an hour below the limit." So I try to stick with that now, but yeah, it is annoying, isn't it?
It
Um,
is, but I still can't bring myself to do, even though I know I've got the room to do it and I've got the time to do it, I just can't bring myself to do it. I just can't.
well, you're a
Um,
good person. Yeah, you're a good guy. Yeah,
well, I feel it. I feel it, viscerally. I just, it's
yeah,
not even the fear of the coppers catching me because, you get a ticket or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I know. Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
much deeper emotive. Restraint. And is that just about?
Well, what I have here in the notes is watching those dash cam videos, and a cop actually gets someone who's done the wrong thing. And the person in the cabin of the car with the dash cam goes, "Yes! Oh!" Or laughs incredibly loudly. And I do too. They got him. They got him. I mean, sort of enjoying when the cops catch somebody.
So,
Yeah.
so enjoying someone else's
Yeah.
misfortune, or is it enjoying the retribution for
Oh,
the
it's usually,
crossing a boundary, and then so
yeah,
do what he needs.
it's not enjoying their pain, just, enjoying the fact that the rules are being maintained. Or at
Yeah,
least
and
I
this
think so. I hope so.
yeah, I think that's true. And then I think what's become most apparent out of what they're now calling the Epstein class, but this cabal or this network of exceedingly powerful people who seem to go unpunished. And maybe this comes down to, maybe affronted people can turn nasty. Maybe that's part of that if we see these actions as maybe that's when the guillotines come out
Well,
historically, you know.
it's not an iterated prisoner's dilemma. That it's an iterated, we win every game. Um, yeah.
We will always,
More money than they should have. Yeah.
yeah, they act with impunity. There's a class of people who act with impunity, and so that's in effect that's the same as just never cooperating
Yeah.
because they don't feel they need to cooperate. And
Mm.
is that then a genetic malformation? Or is that? Do you know? I was thinking about this the other day. So
Oh,
when
there probably is that in there, but really impossible to tell how much. Some people are just bad seeds, but
uh, uh, I mean, they try and look at it through the lens of psychology, but it's. Oh, go on. Have you not finished?
yeah, there's one more slide. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And that slide is about the book. So this is the current edition of the book,
Mm.
The Evolution of Cooperation. You have to have it. You have to read it. If you don't read it, at least look at, well, you've survived so far, so have a look at the Veritasium YouTube on it. But the book is fantastic. The Evolution of Cooperation, and there's been lots of studies since then. What I want to point out, though, and what I've pointed out in red, highlighted in red here, do you notice who the foreword is by?
Yeah, Richard Dawkins. Yeah.
I mean, um, Dawkins, um, Dawkins' book that scared the shit out of me, the hell out of me, was The Selfish Gene.
Yeah.
And it's still true. It's still true. My gene doesn't care. My genes don't care about you.
No,
But
no.
the iterated prisoner's dilemma means that it's advantageous for me to care about you. And
Mm.
that's basically what the book is saying. And he wrote the foreword to it. So why, oh Lord, doesn't he shout it from the high heavens? Because it seems to me to be pivotal in understanding human nature. That it bolsters the argument. Hitchens used to claim that we're good by nature, and we don't need a deity who's a despot who forces us to be nice by making the rules. And
Mm.
I think that's the key. The key to come out of this is that we're actually cooperative and nice by nature. So why doesn't Richard Dawkins um, emphasize it when he he's super powerful and he could do it. So why doesn't he? I just don't know. But to me, this is a seminal book, and it's something that actually must be understood by everybody.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I suppose in the it can be understood in the context of the selfish gene. In that, if our genes are truly selfish, then to to maximize that selfishness, we need to learn to cooperate. Like,
Yeah,
can we be well, we can be cooperative within the context of the
I mean
selfish gene.
that sounds really crude, and really that's what it is. But yeah, we're cooperative by nature. You know,
Mhm.
we're good by nature.
Yeah.
And there are
Now we
things,
just make
yeah, and
John.
there are things that can set us off, and we should protect ourselves and all of that. But we don't need a deity to make us good, and to thinking that we have to rely on that, is it's just another. It's a form of manipulation, really.
An understanding of it certainly can be used to manipulate people. That's what I was going to say before. Like, so 30% of I hate to use it, but 30% of Americans seem to vote against their own best interest. And why is that? It's because the narrative that they formed has driven them to make decisions against their own best interest. So I guess if you're able to, we have our nature on one side, and then we have, this the nature of us makes us vulnerable to being cooperative, which means we're exploitable. And then you have a cabal which seeks to exploit that vulnerability. Maybe that's where the class system lies. Maybe that's what
Well,
it's
I,
two class
I
society.
I can see your point. I agree. What I would say is probably not the most powerful thing, but I would say that the more people who understand that it's advantageous for us to cooperate because we're in a social situation,
Mm.
the more robust we are, and the more resilience we have to people who can manipulate that.
Yeah, yeah, no, good point. Good point.
So
Get the message out there.
misunderstanding our nature, that we have to hold over people this stick of reincarnation or going to heaven or whatever, is unnecessary, is a liberating thing.
This fear of this falling into a chaotic state without religion to support our social order. Yeah, yeah. Yes, we don't
I
need
guess
it. Yeah, we don't need it. I mean, there's people who've been able to exploit that too, but
I
yes, we
guess
don't.
there's a kind of evolutionary, sorry, uh, economic equivalent to that, in that a society of free individuals is better than one of you know of,
Cooperative individuals.
of of free individuals who are cooperative is better than, who have freedom of speech and stuff, is better than one of society that's just controlled from the top.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think we're heading we're heading into some dangerous territory in politics at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, we absolutely are. And it's leaching into our culture over here, whether we like it or not.
Oh, for
I mean,
sure, for sure.
these recent protests. I know you said you were going to go. I didn't go, but I know. Or you said you were going to. Did you go to the protests in Melbourne last week?
No, no, had other things actually,
Yeah,
but
but
I admire people.
apparently,
Yeah.
apparently the Melbourne protests were reasonably peaceful. Whereas in New South Wales, in the Sydney protests, it got pretty heated, pretty nasty, and really, I'm struggling to understand the decision making behind the invitation. It could have sent a card with best wishes or something, rather than turning up here. I think that was just antagonistic. It's just a weird world at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah,
Where
I mean, I think there's a lot of I don't know how to put it. Yeah, it's a good thing to be fighting against hate speech. But is that what they did, or did they increase it? Yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think for today, the main point I want to make is about the evolution of cooperation.
yes,
And
and
I seriously think it's an absolute must read for anyone, for everyone.
yeah. No, I'm on board with it. I reckon we're cooperative.
Yeah.
Cooperative, community, communism.
You dirty commo. That's all I'm going to say. It's amazing
Yeah,
how virulent the reaction can be, though. So be careful.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. No,
Um,
I,
I'm having nothing to do with it. It's neither there or there. Whatever.
yeah, fair enough. No, that was good. I've seen your presentation before, and I'm on board with it. You're right; it is important that to get the message out, and I'm glad that you do keep putting this out there because I think as people begin to understand that it's actually
It revolutionized my life, so I have a special affinity for it. It really changed my life.
yeah, and to be able to put it through scientific, I think to be able to to bring it down to game theory, I think is helpful because I think game theory is pretty easy at well certainly at this level to understand that prisoner's dilemma is a good demonstration of just that microcosm of interaction, and then to make it reiterative, it demonstrates that in the long run, that cooperation is the best outcome for everyone.
Mm.
That matters, and the fact that we're evolved towards it is, well, not just us. I mean, as you say, you see it in all these species where
Yeah,
mutual grooming and tick removal or whatever it might be. That if you're the dude that's never going to help anyone with their ticks, they're not going to help you with your ticks.
yeah, yeah.
You're going to be the one that's going to suffer. So, yeah,
Yeah,
very good.
look at people who come out when there's fires to come out to help people,
Uh,
often, often to their own cost. It's
mm,
inbuilt. It's inbuilt. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure too. I think
There
that's
are
part of it.
caveats, but it's inbuilt. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, really good. Great to chat again, Colin. Um,
Yes.
we'll see you in the next episode.
All right. I'll look forward to it. What's on next? Have we decided yet?
I don't think we have. We've got topics of economics on the horizon, but we want to talk to a few people first. Topic of what is the point of life if you're an atheist? Um,
Ah, yeah. Joe.
Joe Sampson has talked about that, and he has some interesting views, and I'd like to get his views. So yeah, um, and a few other closer to home topics. We didn't do a news today because we didn't really have time for it.
No, there is. Maybe next week we can just revisit the news because there was
Yeah, that'd be great. I think. Yeah,
a
yeah,
couple of things that have come up that we could chat about. So that'd be great.
yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
mate. So I'm going to leave it there. So I'll see you in the next one.
So easy. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.